What's up, guys? This is Dr. Andy back with conversations with myself, along with my buddy James, who's on the other end of this line and video if you're YouTubing. Today, we're going to be talking about a topic that I know James is pretty kind of excited about. He also knows a lot about this. So I'm going to label it as acute hormetic stressors for fortitude. If you have no idea what that means, we're about to break that down. But first and foremost, James, why do you like this topic, and how would you break that down for the layman's person?
I think in this world, a lot of people are soft, and myself included in some regards. And I think that the further you get down the path of comfort, the softer you get. Right, whether it be you get in pocket of getting used to doing certain types of exercises, you get in pocket of being used to having certain conversations, certain depth of knowledge on something, a certain ceasing of learning on any
Mhm.
topic. You become comfortable with what you know, with what you stand on, with the foundation that you build everything on. And I think that makes you weak. I think that we stop learning, we stop pushing, we stop knowing what discomfort and pain are. And I do not mean that you go in the gym and you injure yourself. Not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that you put yourself in positions where you are forced with one decision, right? And the two options in that decision are you going to quit, or are you going to tell that quitter, not today, not this time? That quitter will be back. That question will come back up at some point. But are you willing to face that and bet on yourself that you'll choose the right option? Because I think a lot of people, whether it be intellect, whether it be physicality, whether it be pushing the mind from academic pursuits all the way to trying to become a Navy SEAL, right? Are you willing to voluntarily get in the shitter and sit there to learn about yourself? I believe to the core that most people are not.
So if they're, you're saying that they're not willing,
They're not willing.
correct? They're not willing.
Mm-hmm.
So, but they're capable of doing it.
They're capable of showing up. I don't think most people are capable of not quitting, though.
So would you say that they should just kind of fall by the wayside and forget about even trying to help themselves? Or is
No,
there stuff that they can change to then become more strong between the years, like you're saying?
I think that there's one way that you become strong through the years. You put yourself through voluntary discomfort.
Hmm.
You do things where at any moment you could drop on request, which is just a fancy way of saying you can quit, right? You can quit at any time. I think that there's more power in voluntarily walking into the pain cave, whether it be on an assault bike or it be pushing yourself academically, right? You know where your weaknesses are. We don't. We don't know where the holes in your game are, in your character are, in your day-to-day life. We don't know when you're sneaking bonbons under the table. We don't know if you're jerking off to random porn while your wife is at home and you're not ravaging her. Like, I don't know where you're struggling, and it's not my place to be your therapist and figure that out. But I do think, right, that you have to look at if you want to be the best that you can be. And you could tell me right now, Andy, or anyone listening to this could say, you know what? I don't want to be the best that I can be. And then, cool, this doesn't apply to you. If you
Hmm.
don't actually want that, then stop listening now, because legitimately it's not going to make any sense. And I'm not here. The whole point of this is that it's voluntary. The whole point of this is that you choose to step into this in whatever regard it is. And an interesting story here is I listened to David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me, like a handful of years ago when it came out. I think that was like 18 or 19, 2018 or 2019, right?
Hmm.
And I was like, you know what? Can I run a berm with a log on my back? Can I run a berm with a rucksack on? Like, do I have the ability to do that? And what's interesting is this is very on the nose because he talks about doing this, and they talk about doing it in Navy SEAL in BUDS, right? Basic underwater demolition school, kind of the precursor to becoming a Navy SEAL. Just a start, okay, not the whole thing, just a start to get the ability to try out, basically. And so there was one night when it was pouring down rain, right? And I have an old Alice pack, which is like a rucksack from God knows when, maybe Vietnam or something, maybe at the beginning of Desert
How old are
Storm.
you?
Uh, I'm not that old. I got it at a surplus store, but the um the thing that I wanted to see is like up to this point, like I had wrestled when I was a kid. and I'd quit, right? I wrestled for like 2 years straight and then I quit because it was hard, right? I played football and then I quit. I got injured and I used that as some cover to get out of football. Did I get injured? Did I have sciatica? Did it hurt? Was it a long recovery? Yes, because I wasn't taking care of myself. But could I have come back and played football again? Yes. Did I decide to quit? Yes. Went in and did cross country. Okay. Ran the first year, sucked ass. Did very well the summer before my senior year, but then got injured. Did I run after that? No, I did not. I stayed and helped coach the team and helped everybody out there. But I just found at this point, coming out of college, being on the other side of this, out of a breakup, at home, listening to this Goggins book, like, am I a pussy? Am I a pussy? Have I quit everything that I've started? And up to that point, I'd quit most things. I'd been above average in a lot of things, right? Without any effort. That's the kicker, right? It doesn't make you strong if you could do it with ease. You having a proclivity to be able to do gymnastics because you did gymnastics in CrossFit, because you did gymnastics as a kid, doesn't make you strong. It makes you already adept to those movement patterns because you've already done them. So that doesn't make you a good gymnast if you had 10 years prior when you were a kid doing gymnastics. You know what I mean? Like if it's easy for you to read scientific periodicals, right, or scientific journals, or the contraindications, or the book of radiology on your desk that this computer is propped up on, if it's easy for you, that doesn't make you strong in that area if it comes natural. Now, I'm not saying that you're Einstein out here and that all comes natural. I've never actually asked you that, but I think that it is important. It is important to find the things that you either want to test or find the things that you're not great at and intentionally bring yourself into suffering to get better.
That was well said, man. Yeah. Now you got me thinking about Bud School and David Goggins' book. But where that parlays, I think, for people that are maybe outside the health and fitness area, right? This can go for anything. I mean, just speaking of uncomfortable, just hold your breath and try to hold your breath for a minute, right? Most people probably can't even do that, right? So this can mean anything. If you want to start to advance your career, or even if you don't like the spot that you're in financially, or just what you do for a profession, right? Change something. And usually that change involves something that's going to challenge you and not be easy. So like James, you had mentioned volitional, right? So we volitionally migrate towards the path of least resistance. That's just the way our brain is neurologically wired. It wants to spend the least amount of energy doing anything. However, you can shift that with a conscious, when I say volitional, voluntary, right? Those are synonyms. So by choosing to suffer or choosing to challenge, because suffering sometimes involves a little bit deeper, more pain, more uncomfortability that may be challenging. Because I'm not necessarily going to go out and read. I remember growing up, I think in high school, and I saw my dad sitting out on the back porch reading a book about insulation, trying to like learn something that he didn't know about insulation. He was doing that because they were looking at selling their house, getting a new house. And I was like, man, why would you ever do that? Like, that sounds awful to me, and he found enjoyment out of it, not because he enjoys insulation, but because he enjoyed the challenge of him allowing himself to grow, to make a decision by himself about what type of insulation he wanted to do, have in his house. Me, you had mentioned a joke about the radiology book that's on my desk underneath this computer right now that I'm filming from, right? So I love anatomy, I love physiology. That's why I became a chiropractor. It was, in some aspects, like the path of least resistance, but it took me a lot of times quitting on things to get here. Just like you, I played sports all growing up, and when things got tough, I tended to step on the brakes and peel back because it's super easy, right? You don't get what you want, you don't get the results that you want. Cool, I'm just going to quit because that's not fair, and it's not my fault. That's whatever thing's fault. So And I had been told kind of throughout my life, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? And so it became this figuring out of, well, what is it that I'm good at, and what is it that I like? But I had to go through steps and a lot of failures to figure out what it is that I truly wanted to do, or at least dive in. And it challenged me. 4 years of chiropractic school nearly killed me between my ears. A, because of the pressure that I put on myself, but two, because it was challenging. It was hard. It was difficult, even though it was something that I really had an interest in. Didn't make it easy. Fuck, I wish it did. But I think a lot of people, like you said, James, get into this track of, they live in the doldrums day by day by day. And in an analogy or an example of working out, right? Both you and I have done CrossFit in the past pretty consistently. And it can, imagine you're just showing up at the gym. Most of the time people say, well, just show up, just show up, just show up. The results are gonna get there. You and I are saying attack each day like it's the last day that you have to give at the gym, right? It doesn't mean that you have to lay flopping dead on the floor, right? But challenging yourself outside of the uncomfortable that you're accustomed to. So for me, I loved Olympic lifting, right? If snatches were on the board, no matter if it was heavyweight, low rep, moderate weight, high rep, low weight, high rep, whatever the combination was, you could combine that with anything. Snatches were my jam, right? I stunk at running long distances, and I stunk at the assault bike. You paired those with anything else in a workout, and I just did not want to challenge myself on that. So for me, and this is a very superficial example of this, but for myself, over the last couple months, I've started to really push into running because I love sprinting, but I hate freaking running for long distances. And so what did I do? I started challenging myself with longer distances and putting myself into that uncomfortable zone. And I know this is just involving the example of working out, but take that to anything. Like I said, holding your breath, hang from a bar for 60 seconds. Most of us don't even hang from a bar at all, right? That'll challenge your anatomy of your shoulders, most of us, and put you into an uncomfortable place, make your hands hurt because of the calluses that you don't have, right? So if you want to do better in your job, show up early, stay late, go the extra mile, right? With your boss, with your coworkers, whatever it is, to earn their respect, earn the promotion that you're looking for, earn more pay, whatever it is. If your relationship sucks, let's say you're with your wife or with your husband, and it's uncomfortable for you to communicate things that, need to be addressed, right? But conflict isn't really your thing. Get uncomfortable and bring up that conflict, communicate about it, because the end goal of it is going to be growth in your relationship. Or maybe you learn, maybe we do need to go separate ways, but you grow from that. So I don't know, James, if you have any other examples, with that, or anything that you want to kind of, leave the listeners with.
Yeah, it's just intentional discomfort. Some of the strongest, most fit people in the gym are afraid to have an uncomfortable conversation with their spouse. Like, being strong in one area doesn't make you strong in others. And unless you're willing to constantly be uncomfortable, growing in different areas, you'll never be your best self. Because the best CrossFit athlete doesn't get a pass on everything else. You don't just get to beat your wife because you're good in the gym. You don't get to, to eat whatever you want, or to not try to improve your reading level because you're good in athletics, right? Like, I hear you, we can fall into archetypes. Well, this doesn't make you money. Well, this doesn't that. Well, like, look, let's assume that you have 100 years, right? That's a stretch for a lot of people, but let's assume you have 100 years, right? If you have 100 years and you're at 35 right now, or you're at 30, and you're really good at something, and when you're done with this good at something, you don't think that you're going to be pushing yourself, I think you need to reevaluate. I think you need to look at something that you can grow in, look at something that is maybe a crossroads of something you enjoy and something you're maybe not the best at, right? I mean, I think that intentional suffering, right, short-term suffering, will get you a massive, massive result. Right? It doesn't have to just be in the gym. And I really do think that we'd all be better for it if we continue to push ourselves, right? If you strove to be uncommon amongst uncommon in every position that you're in, you strive for improvement, 1%, right? If you want to pull on James Clear, Atomic Habits, if you want to pull on Ben Bergeron, Chasing Excellence, if you want to pull on even Michael Easter, The Comfort Crisis. That is a great book if someone's afraid of discomfort. That and Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins, and The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter. I mean, they will blow your mind. They will blow your mind, right? Maybe your discomfort is in not giving a fuck what people have to say about you. Maybe you care too much about what people have to say about you that don't know you. Maybe you need to work on that. I don't know what your discomfort is. I can tell you this, though, that you should seek it out and you should attack it like a missile and blow that up and get better. It will only improve your life and those around you, even if short term it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. I think, and you mentioned some good literature to kind of dive into, because some people, can go, what is it, cold turkey or hot turkey, where they either quit something right on the spot or they go all in. I know you're kind of the go all in and cut it all out, kind of like me, person, 100 or nothing. Atomic Habits is a great reference book to, like, not baby step, but just do it in a way that's super simple, super easy, and it's obtainable. Because if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I can't just quit this, or I can't just jump into that, or whatever it is, this book really does a good job of allowing you to start small, and then that snowball grows and grows and grows, right? To the point where, like, you now don't even think about it, it just becomes a habit and it becomes your nature. So you talking about all that, James, just reminded me of I'm listening to a podcast on history, and it talks about George Washington, and all we look at him in I remember reading about him in history books and being like, dude, this guy's a badass. Like, first president of the United States, was the commander of our army in the Revolutionary War and all that stuff. And, chopped down the cherry tree and all that kind of stuff. That's not exactly happened. But anyway, if you truly dive into, like, his history and how he became this badass that we have in our history books, he went through a lot of suffering. Like, the dude got slandered, people criticized him. He did have people in his court that backed him up, right? But man, he was like strung out and dragged through the mud, tarred and feathered by a lot of people, and some very, like, powerful people, even countries. And so his struggles growing up through life, he had to go through all those challenges, like you had mentioned, James, just to become the person that he was, right? And now we idolize him as this great, man, pioneer of our country. So not everybody can be that, right? But you can certainly be like the George Washington of you, meaning you can optimize yourself. Does that mean everything in your life needs to be attacked 100% all the time? No, that's impossible. But if you don't like where you're at, insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And you can only grow by pushing on the fringes of your comfort zone and breaking through that. So whether you want to, start big by, hey, just, a New Year's resolution by cutting out, all bad foods and eating better and going right to the gym and starting that workout routine, cold turkey or, hot turkey, whatever it's called, today, right? Or you just want to start with your, hey, I'm going to start reading every night, right? For 15 minutes before I go to bed. Every night I'm going to pick up a book and read, right? And just start chewing manuscripts like that, whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, dude, one step at a time. One step at a time. Attack one area, fortify it some more, right? By finding your weaknesses, right? Penetration test it, right? Like they do on software. Legitimately poke holes in what you got going on in the beliefs that you hold most dear, and see where you're at, man. See where you're at, and then improve, or do none of it and just be weak. But remember that there is no courage in weakness. There's none. You cannot be courageous if you're weak. If you do not have the capability to push forward through something, you can't be courageous in the action of doing so. It's impossible.
And fear is not weakness either.
No,
fear is not. Yeah.
Fear is ever
present.
Present in most people that are pushing outside of their bounds, whether they're war fighters or not.
Yeah, 100%.
So, hope that helps. We are not being elitist. We are simply saying find the holes that you have in your own game, find the places where you are not living up to your true potential that you want to be, and attack those. If we can help, holler at us. If not, all good. Appreciate y'all listening, and we will catch y'all next time.